And I think to myself, what a wonderful.
Or maybe panic just a little bit.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Here's everything you need to understand about how artificial intelligence will impact the world. Today's video is sponsored by this place, the El Cadeo Way. If you'd like to learn how to apply more autonomy in your own life, stick around to learn more at the end of the video. The whole point of building an artificial intelligence is to have a machine capable of doing the kinds of things that humans can do. Well, what do humans do? You could summarize thousands of years of human behavior with two simple words: problem solving. Maybe your stomach starts growling. Okay, well, that's a problem. I need to remedy that problem with a solution, right? So I imagine through all the possible different solutions I could use to remedy that problem, and then I execute. Problem, solution, execution. This is what human beings have been doing for ages. Problem, solution, execution. Problem, solution, execution. Problem, solution, execution. Now, for most of the history of mankind, this whole process has been your responsibility. When you have a problem, you are on the hook to come up with a solution and execute that solution to solve your problem. Well, as you already know, that's kind of exhausting. And so some time ago, people started to realize, hey, you know what? I could actually get somebody else to do a part of my problem-solving process for me. I've got a problem, I'm hungry, but now I'm going to pass off the execution of that solution to somebody else, and they can cook me dinner to help me solve my problem. And that worked so well that a lot of us decided we should just pass off the solution stage for our problem-solving process as well. And you're familiar with this. Your car breaks down, suddenly there's flames bursting out of the hood. You don't know exactly what you need to do to solve that problem, so you bring that problem to somebody else. I've got a problem. They come up with the solution that'll fix that problem and even execute. Throughout history, the solution and the execution has been the most valuable part of the problem-solving process. It's the part that takes up the most work. Because of that, it's the most valuable. In early history, we did this work for someone in power in exchange for, well, your life. Congrats, you solved my problems, and because of that, you get to live.
They call me Common Raw the Bloodthirsty, who kills whoever doesn't give Common Raw exactly what he wants in the moment that he wants it, which is right now.
That's what they called you.
It was shorter in Egyptian.
And today, we do this work for someone in power in exchange for, well, congratulations, you get to live.
Could you pay me in advance?
Now, the truth is, we are each on both sides of this equation. All of us have problems that we would like to have somebody else provide a helpful solution for, and all of us are also trying to increase our livelihood, which, if we're doing this properly, we do by solving the problems for other people.
That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far.
Now, of course, you can probably see where this is going, because what happens when a machine is able to more cheaply handle these stages? How does a person increase their livelihood? For the first half of human history, the name of the game was human beings negotiating with other human beings in order to solve each other's problems. But as machines become more capable, that relationship and dynamic will change to human beings working out their problems by interfacing with machines. We're pretty far into this process already. It began when NASA had a problem. They needed to know where one of their rockets would land. Well, they had some mathematical equations that they could use that would provide the solution. Well, there were mathematicians working for NASA whose job was literally to compute these equations. They were called computers. Eventually, IBM created a machine that could also compute the same equations, and that's why they called it a computer. This was the first step for a machine being able to handle the execution stage for an important problem. Over time, we saw this process continue as machines were able to handle the solution stage. Think of using your Maps app on your phone. You provide to the machine your problem, and it provides to you several solutions. But this is just the very beginning of this process, because now we're starting to see machines capable of identifying problems. And this is what many people are concerned about. What happens if a computer identifies the wrong problem. What would happen if a machine decided that human beings were a problem and then created its own solutions to resolve that problem? So the most important thing that we could possibly understand when it comes to predicting the future with artificial intelligence is how a problem becomes a problem in the first place. With human beings, we tend to say that you wake up on the shores of your consciousness when you discover that you have a problem. The problem, solution, and execution stage are the conscious aspect of how we go about solving our problems. But how does a problem become a problem in the first place? A problem is in essence a product of two other stages of the problem-solving model that take place inside of our unconscious. The aspects of your psychology that handle presenting you with the problems that you need to solve are your awareness stage and your aim stage. Say you wake up in the morning, you're getting ready to make breakfast, you make your way downstairs and discover that the bacon in the fridge is all gone. There's no bacon. Is that a problem? For me, that's a problem. But if you think back to all that time you spent getting ready for the day, unaware that there was no bacon in the fridge, you can't solve a problem that you're not aware of. So you can see how higher levels of awareness would help you identify problems that you might encounter in the world. But that still doesn't explain exactly why having no bacon in my fridge is a problem for me. Crazily enough, there are some people who will discover no bacon in their fridge and then they don't think that's a problem at all. To understand that, we need to understand the aim aspect of your psychology. You know how in cartoons there's always a hungry character who hallucinates seeing his friends turn into delicious steaks? That is in essence the effect of aim in your psychology. Your senses of awareness serve you to help you recognize what things are going on in the world around you, right? Visual information, sensory information will make its way into your brain, and your senses of awareness help you understand what things are. That's what awareness is for. It tells you what something is. But what your aim does is it tells you what something means. And what something is not the same as what it means. All intelligent systems have 5 basic categories of aim that are used to then apply meaning on top of the objective information that you are sensing, which takes objective information and turns it into meaningful information. So these two aspects of your psychology, your aim and your awareness, work together to produce the problems that you see in the world. And depending on what category of aim you're operating from, that will filter through your entire psychology to produce different kinds of problems that you will find in your environment. As we evolved, we developed these 5 different categories of aim to help us understand and adapt to our environment. Imagine you find yourself waking up one day in a giant, unfamiliar warehouse. As you look around, you see objects and materials on the shelves, and you realize that you have no memory of what any of these objects are. It's as if you're an intelligence in a new environment, encountering it for the very first time. What kinds of problems would you find yourself running into in an environment like this? Well, pretty quickly you're going to find that you need to figure out how to stay alive. What things can be eaten, what things will keep you warm and safe. Pretty quickly you'll find that those are the problems that you need to learn how to solve first. Next, you'll start to move into a stage where you need to understand exactly what is here. What else is going on inside of this place? There's unfamiliar objects, there's things that are confusing, there's things that don't make sense to me. And so you'd go through a process of creating a model of what things are. You would name things, you would develop concepts of what kinds of objects are what. Once you have your own internal model of what things appear to be, how things seem to work to you, you would then start to solve a different kind of problem. You would start to move into a place where you would start to solve problems that are related to not what is here now in this world, but what could be possible in this world. You might begin to experiment with building things, creating things that don't exist. Maybe you would like to have a table to eat your dinner on, but now you're experimenting with bringing those things into reality. As you begin to solve more and more of those creative problems, you'll start to discover that your environment has transformed. You now have options, lots of options, and you'll start to discover a problem of trying to understand which of these options do you like the best. What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? You've learned how to make lots of different kinds of foods. What kinds of foods do you like? You've learned how to make lots of different kinds of furniture. What kinds of furniture do you enjoy the most? And you have the luxury of trying to solve problems that are related to my own personal preferences. Well, as you continue to solve those problems, eventually you may find that you've become satiated and yet still find that something seems to be missing. There's another problem, which is, why am I here? What exactly is going on? Is there more? This becomes the final problem that you'll want to try to solve. And what you would probably discover is that you would begin to create inventions to try to answer that question. Maybe you would even begin to break through the walls of the warehouse around you. And what would you find as you break through that wall? You may be surprised to find another person in the exact same kind of environment that you were in. Another person in their own warehouse with unfamiliar resources and materials all around them. You may discover they have different names for the things that you've named. You may discover that they've come up with different solutions, different preferences, different things that they enjoy. But most importantly, with this discovery that you are not alone in this universe, will come the realization that you are actually a part of something bigger than yourself. And that realization will provide new context to all the problems that you were solving before. As you learn to interact with the other people that you find, you would start to have a shared language. You would start to change the words that you use for objects that you find to create a shared language for the objects that you all have in common. You would start to have shared objectives. You would start to have shared preferences. In short, you would start to try to understand the role that you play in part of that bigger story. In this thought experiment, we discovered that we have 5 different kinds of aims, 5 different categories of problems that you would discover as you try to understand and adapt to your environment. The red aim asks the question, how do I survive? The amber stage of aim asks the question, how does this world work? How does this world appear to present itself to me? And do I understand this world's rules? The orange stage of aim asks the question, what else is possible? The world has its rules. Well, what kinds of rules do I want to impose on the world? The green stage of aim starts to respond to the products of orange and says, well, what do I like best? And lastly, the blue stage of aim asks the question, well, what role do I play as part of a bigger story? So let's use that information to get a better understanding of why I believe that not having bacon in your fridge is a problem. Okay, my aim when it comes to bacon is a perspective of enjoyment, right? It's a green perspective. I like bacon. I like having bacon for breakfast. Okay, so that green aim filters through my awareness. I look through the world through that perspective. And when I discover a lack of bacon in the fridge, from a perspective of, well, my personal enjoyment, I'm gonna say, that's a problem. That's a way that a green category of aim would illuminate the lack of bacon for me as a problem. If you're really hungry, having no bacon is going to be a different kind of problem. I have friends who follow rules about not eating pork. And if they open the fridge and discover that there is no bacon in the fridge, well, that's actually not going to be a problem from that perspective. I have a different friend who has specific goals of trying to achieve a certain amount of protein intake. He doesn't like bacon the same way that I like bacon. He just likes bacon because it's good for him achieving a certain level of protein intake every day. And if there's no bacon in the fridge, that's going to be a different kind of problem than he might be trying to solve. Or maybe you have a perspective where you had some friends over for breakfast and you wanted to give them an enjoyable breakfast. You wanted to create an experience for them. You wanted a story to unfold in a certain way. And maybe bacon played a role in that story. So when you're trying to realize that experience for your friends and you open up the fridge and discover that there's no bacon in the fridge, that's a problem from a different kind of perspective. All of these different categories of aim play a critical role in us recognizing what kinds of things are a problem. And so let's bring this back now to this discussion we're having about the machine-human handoff as we start to enter a world where artificial intelligence becomes more of a thing. With this information in mind, we have now a much clearer picture of the problem-solving process. Now, the thing to understand is that as human beings, having machines at our disposal We want to have this handoff take place in a way that's going to give us the best outcome. If we don't do this properly, we're going to run into problems. Remember my no bacon problem. I had an aim that passed through my awareness to illuminate a problem for me. There's no bacon in the fridge. Well, for a certain kind of company, that's the perfect kind of problem for me to have for them because they make bacon. It's actually really helpful for them for me to have the problem that they have the solution for. And this is what advertisers figured out a long time ago, that you can actually influence somebody's aim and their awareness to create an environment for them in which they happen to discover the problems that is really convenient for you to have for them. Now, what I want you to recognize is not that, yes, there are people out there who are trying to manipulate your subconscious to produce problems that are advantageous for them, but I want you to also see that each of us are actually on both sides of this equation. All of us depend on solving someone's problems for our livelihood. So if you, like a normal person, want to increase your quality of life, that naturally points you to a place in which you need other people to have the problems that you can solve. Any person who's in the situation where their livelihood depends on other people having the problems that they can solve is going to be naturally incentivized to do that. Corporations do this, it's manipulative, but employees do this too. If your boss is thinking about removing your position, you're going to be in a position where you're trying to influence his aim and awareness of your role in that job to make sure that you still have that job to solve that problem. The real problem here is that we've found ourselves in a situation in which, in order to increase our quality of life, we have to ensure that other people have problems that we can solve for them, which seems kind of counterproductive, doesn't it? There is a better way, and this always begins with an individual owning their own aim, understanding their own aim and awareness. Then we know that the problems that we encounter are our problems and aren't problems that were given to us because somebody else thought it would be advantageous for them. Then we can begin to work to find people who can help provide solutions or execute solutions to resolve those problems for us. As we continue to try to scale, we can build and develop relationships in which we reach a place in which two people can share the same aim. If you share the same aim and have access to the same information, you will see the problems in the world together in the same way. It's following the same pattern that will lead to the best outcomes with our future with artificial intelligence. We began this journey with building machines capable of handling level 1 of this process, and over time want to grow to a place where they can handle level 2, level 3, level 4, and eventually maybe even get to the place where we share the same kind of vision for the future. You can think of this handoff as essentially levels of autonomy in which we build machines that are capable of being able to handle those different stages throughout the problem-solving process. This transition is the landscape that we will find ourselves navigating as we look into a future with artificial intelligence. So let's talk about some practical takeaways as you try to navigate this future. As you think about this trend of machines becoming more capable of handling more of this aspect of our problem-solving process, it's probably a good idea to ask yourself a question. Do my skills that I use right now primarily solve problems? Or do my skills that I use right now primarily identify problems? As this transition continues to develop, we will see more and more of these roles become the kinds of roles that are fulfilled by machines. And we will see more and more of these roles become the kinds of roles that are fulfilled by humans. This can feel for many of us kind of disheartening because many of us have built careers in this space. And as we consider this possible future, I want you to consider a possible mindset. Imagine somebody who's created a job for themselves pulling somebody up a mountain so that that person can enjoy the wonderful views that exist on top of that mountainous landscape. On one hand, if this person relies on their job to pull that cart up the hill for their livelihood, they will probably feel threatened by a new machine that can replace the execution stage of that problem. But if this person's livelihood does not depend on the existence of that specific job, but if their livelihood instead depends on providing experiences to people to experience this beautiful landscape, they'll probably be encouraged by a form of technology that can make that mission easier to accomplish. Unfortunately, we live in a culture today where many people work not to realize a mission, not to realize a better version of the world, but work simply to live. And if this is the way you've configured your career, you will feel threatened by machines that are able to solve problems. But instead, if you ask yourself the question, what world would I like to see be built? Would I like to see a world in which more people can have this kind of peak experience? If you have a purpose behind your life, you will feel encouraged and helped by technology that can more easily help you build that world. So as you contemplate a future with more capable machines, it will become more important for you to ask yourself, what version of the world do I want to see? Try to get yourself out of the mindset of thinking that you exist to solve the problems for someone else, and try to get into the mindset of thinking that you exist to build potential worlds. This is the ideal outcome for what could be possible as we grow into a world with more capable machines. But it is important we take a moment to talk about a word of caution, because there is a way in which this can go very wrong. Remember, there's a single way in which two separate systems can learn how to work together as one, and it begins with an individual owning their own problems, becoming an autonomous individual, not being a puppet for the aims of someone else, but instead understanding their own aims, what they are capable of, and aligning their aims towards the highest good that they can conceive of. Now you become a person who sees the world through the lens of a mission. The problems that the world presents to you are the right problems to solve. You're not solving problems simply to serve yourself from a limited aim perspective. You're solving the kinds of problems that will build a better world. It's once you become that kind of person that then you're ready to begin to grow a network that can work together towards realizing that vision. And that network can consist of a combination of other people or machines. When you and other systems are both committed to the same high aim, you can grow members of your network to more autonomously handle the problems that are required in order to realize that vision. This is the way to align two separate systems so that they work productively together as one. It's called the Elkadea way. But there is one essential part of making this all work, which is that if a system is not capable of understanding or committing to the same kind of aim that you are committing to, you're going to have serious problems, because that system won't be able to diagnose the problems through the right perspective. So we should never give level 3 of autonomy to a system that is not capable of committing to the same kind of aim that we are committing to. And that's a serious problem that we're experiencing right now with artificial intelligence, because current versions of AI are only capable of operating from a red, or recently now an amber, aim. Think about how early machine learning models are created through thousands of iterations of evolutionary selection. These models are selected because they interpret their inputs through a perspective of how to survive inside of the environment that they are developed in. That's a system that through its default nature perceives its environment through that red paradigm. Now, all the recent advancements that we've seen with large language models follow an amber paradigm. Think about how they are produced. It's just like the individual who has learned to survive in the warehouse, but is now needing to understand all of the rules that exist in the environment that it is exploring. Large language models are created by learning how to understand the existing rules that are present in an environment. And then by their nature, they simply follow those rules. You can refine that set of rules through reinforcement learning and human feedback, but at the end of the day, these systems are only capable of operating through strict obedience to the set of rules that they are given. Of course, there's a lot that we can still accomplish with a system capable of understanding the world through an amber aim, but we need to understand those limitations and be careful that we don't put a system that is only capable of conceiving a certain level of aim into a position where it's going to be diagnosing problems that don't align with an aim that we are committed to. If we are careful and thoughtful about understanding and applying this pattern, the way in which two separate systems can, through time and development, learn how to work together as one, we can build an exciting and better future together. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. Here's what happens when you become a member of the Elkadale Way. What I'm trying to do is build a world where humans experience more freedom in their work and life. All the videos and resources I make here are for that purpose, helping you become more autonomous. When you become a member, you're helping me do that work, but you also get access to member-only resources, including the Elkadale Way flagship courses, Autonomous Individual, my course on increasing freedom and control in your own life, and Autonomous Teams, my course for leaders and founders who want to build teams founded on the powerful principles of autonomy. Members also get access to the community Elkadale Access, which includes lots of opportunities to connect directly with me and other members of the autonomous movement. However you choose to be a part of the Elkadale Way, I'm thankful for you being here today and look forward to whatever way we cross paths again in the future.